welcome to Turning the Verge. I'm Crystal Nettles, and here with me today is artist Athena Hahn. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
All right. It's nice to be here.
You look very elegant, I must say.
Oh, thank you.
I like the sheerness of the outfit.
Why, thank you.
So what made you want to become an artist?
That's always a good question. I wasn't sure that was the thing that I wanted to do. I played music and wrote the whole time I was growing up. I think sometimes it just comes down to what you keep doing the most of, you know. So as I went along, I was spending more and more time doing artwork, and it seemed like the best place to contextualize my life. It was a place where I could take the experiences I was having and explore them. And when you do artwork, I don't know if you write in a journal or anything like that, but when you do artwork, you kind of learn things back as you put things into that form. And so it just felt like a rich place to be, you know.
So what are some things you've learned about yourself?
Well, part of it's things you learn about yourself, and part of it's a place to make connections between other things that you know about. So, for example, I was working on a piece recently. It's a series that I'm doing that has figures and is working from the outside and has lyrics in the background. And all the images are drawn from my day-to-day life, so they're a little bit of a journal in that sense. So I had done myself from the back, you know, framed, and my arms were forward, so, you know, you could only see the shoulders. And when I looked at it, I was thinking that that looked very much like, you know, the Venus de Milo images with, you know, the arms off. And she's the goddess of love, you know, in Greek mythology. So there's something about not having your arms showing that's giving your power up, but I think that that's part of love, is that when you have strong feelings towards something, you're letting go of yourself in a certain way. So that would be an example of that. Like, through the image, I thought of other images like that and what they mean in relation to my own life.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. Well, so it gave me a different way to think about things. And I thought about doing the male figure there because the image I was drawing off of was standing, you know, with my arms around someone who was sitting. And I chose not to put him there because I was thinking that the important part was the experience I was having. Because you know how there's always a difference. Like right now, I don't know exactly what's going on in your head, right? You could be imagining 5 million things, you know? But I thought that's like when you're a kid, that's the invisible friend thing too. You know, that's the, you're getting something out of a relationship that maybe other people can't see, you know? So it's really internal.
So you're so much deeper than I am.
Oops. Yeah, and clumsier.
No, I'm pretty clumsy. I don't know about that. No, yeah, it's kind of nice to hear you say that, because I know people say that everyone has a different interpretation of art, and it's always nice to hear what the artist was thinking when they drew it, when they painted it, when they created it. But I think of myself as not creative in that way, where I look at something and I can't see past, you know, what's there, and it's neat to hear another view from my own. So it kind of makes me think. Do you, when you're making something, is that your goal, to kind of make people think, or is it all supposed to be right there for them to see?
Well, I think it's different at different times, but I mean, hopefully when, you know, as an artist, I'm not doing something strictly for me. It's not, you know, it's not just therapy. There's something I'm trying to do beyond that, which is to think about, there's a personal aspect, which is trying to put myself in accord with my own life, you know, with my humanness and being here, and thinking about the issues of being a human over time, you know, how they've been described by other artists, whether it's musicians or writers or through myths and folk stories. And I think what happens when you start working with all that is you end up with this image, right? And what you're trying to do is supply an entry point for the viewer. So there'll be something maybe that's very obvious that says, you know, does this look like you know, as a person? You know, can you relate to this body posture? Or, you know, here's a tree. Have you seen a tree like that? And then all those layers you start adding of meaning are a way of giving them somewhere to go from there. You know, because a piece that's just a really quick read isn't very interesting to me personally. You know, someone said a painting should only take as much time to make as it takes to look at. So if I'm going to spend a bunch of time on a painting, there better be a lot there for the viewer, you know, so that they can discover things over time and go, oh, I see something else in that. And hopefully it's something that relates to their own experience and makes it meaningful for them, you know, isn't just there as an inert object that they're ignoring, you know.
And is most of your work, is it of people, or do you do a lot of nature?
In the past I did, but I did a lot more nature type imagery, but it was abstracted. Recently I've mainly been focusing on people because, and I've used myself as a model, but that's mainly convenience. I have myself there to pose for me, and it's harder to round up someone else. But do you know who Rene Magritte is? Do you know his work at all?
No.
He did a series of work that had always the same man, always in a bowler hat. And because the same person was over and over in different images and sometimes multiplied, like a train station full of the same person moving around. When you use the same person over and over again, it starts to be representative of a person, where if each time has different characteristics, like here's one face and a different, it becomes about individuals in a group and how they interact. And right now my work's about internal experiences that people have. So I've been using just one consistent figure.
It's kind of nice too that people can identify that it's yours as well. If they see it, they can instantly know that, oh, Athena did that.
Well, that's somewhat true. Although I've got my costume. You know, I pull my hair up, and you know, I wear a little headband, and I wear a sort of a uniform when I do it, so it's always consistent through the pieces, and that also gives me that little bit of distance from it.
And do you photograph yourself and then paint from a photo, or are you just looking at your reflection? And
I usually start with, at the end of the week or a 2-week period, thinking about what the most significant event was during that time. And then I have an idea of what physical stance would represent that feeling. Like, would it be someone standing or laying down or curled up, you know, on a simple level? And then I photograph it, you know, I set up the pose, photograph it, and think about who's looking. So if someone who's tall is the person looking, I adjust everything so it's at that height. Or if the person's sitting next to me, when I take the photo, I have the camera right here, because I want the perspective to match the distance of that person who's the observer in it.
Oh, wow. So you're thinking you're thinking way past the whole painting. I mean, you have this huge perspective in your head. It's not just this, oh, I feel like painting today, la-di-da. I meant you're thinking way beyond when you're done with the painting.
Well, I think that happens sometimes. You know, it's like anything in life. Sometimes it just all comes easy and it's really fast and it's so fun and it quick too, you know, as a process. And other times, you know, you're just struggling and wrestling with it. And that's the work part. That's kind of the difference, I think, between being a hobby painter and a professional artist, is that pushing past where you think you can go and taking that extra time to try to make it relevant.
And do you ever get in the middle of a piece and suddenly change course, or do you always stick to what the original plan was?
Well, the way I work right now, I have lyrics in the background of the pieces. So I'll think of an image, like I said, that represents an experience, and then I relate that to childhood stories. So and then I choose a set of lyrics that relates to it. So once I have the drawing done, I put all the lyrics down on the canvas first, and then I paint the image around them, from the drawing I've done. So the lyrics are always showing through the image. And I do it that way because it creates an opportunity for surprise for me. So I did one that I had, lyrics down on the canvas, and then I projected an image of a can. Did you ever do that when you were a kid? The can on a string thing, and you pretend it's a telephone? Because I was thinking about communication that week. And, we've got text images, we've got telephones, we have so many ways to do it, but it's still that wanting to hear another voice. And, when you're a kid, you're so excited, like, oh, I want to hear it. But I projected it, and I had it all set up just how I thought it would go. But where the can happened to land was across the words you, because the sentences were running across the canvas. And it was great because the can ended up outlining the words yo-yo. And I couldn't have done that planning. I could have, but it would have taken a lot of years to find a song and line everything up just right. So I like building in surprises. So I do change course in that sense. I'll find something that I didn't see coming.
I believe we have a picture of some of your recent work from your Dear Prudence line. And what is this shot we're seeing here?
Oh, that's a great question. These first ones, that week I was thinking that I spend a lot, I couldn't think of what I was going to paint. It wasn't coming easily that week. And I was thinking that what I mostly spend my time doing is looking for something. I'm looking for my keys, I'm looking for a relationship, I'm looking for an experience. There's something that I'm seeking that feels fulfilling. So I did all the postures based on hide and seek in these pieces. So, at the beginning where you count, and one where I was looking under something. And
so it's a whole series, it's almost like a whole series just for that one game or memory.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next one is based on the game Chutes and Ladders, because I was thinking a lot about, life's ups and downs and what gets you to each place. And that game is based on an old temple game that was designed, it's about 2,000 years old. It used to be called Snakes and Ladders. And it was designed to teach people how to grapple with life. Like you do this, you move up a few squares, you'd have that kind of thing, it takes you down. So I thought that would be a fun thing to play with in terms of my own experience. And I laughed a lot doing that one.
That's kind of interesting, though, to know like the origin of where these games came to be, because you just think, oh, they're fun to play, but there really was a purpose to creating them.
Absolutely, and that's part of what I'm talking about when I say I learn when I work, because it's like when you look up a word in a dictionary and you find out the origins of that word, and then you look up another word that's related to it. Just by looking at something, there's always all this information there that you didn't know, and it doesn't matter where you go with that in some ways. It's that you took the time to explore it.
If people wanted to see more of your work, where would they go? Do you have a website they can visit?
I do. It's athenahahn.net.
And how do you spell that?
ATHENAHAHN.net.
Very cool. And so the name Athena, why'd your parents do that?
I think I actually got kind of lucky out of the options. My father was teaching Greek mythology.
Oh, wow.
So that, it's a great name, but it's one of those things people are always asking me, oh, did you give that to yourself? Especially when I moved to New Mexico. People are always moving and changing their name, so they were wondering about that. But I always caution people to be a little careful when they pick such a big name. The scar on my face I got when I was 5, and it was from being bit by a Great Dane that wasn't our dog. And the dog was named Zeus, and in Greek mythology, Zeus is Athena's father. So it's, funny little things line up in life too, not just paintings.
And you lived in Greece for a time, correct?
I did. It's gorgeous. I highly recommend it.
Are there people in Greece named Athena, or was that kind of a weird thing?
No, people generally don't name their children after Athena there. But, you know, it was great. I was living on Eos, which is a beautiful island, and I was house sitting for a man named Jean-Marie, who was one of the first two producers of French television, actually. So he did all the original footage we have of Matisse and Gauguin and Picasso. And I didn't even know there were people like that around for me to meet. I was so excited. And he had this amazing private collection with original works by all of those artists. And my job was I had to open up the museum doors every day and make sure it got enough fresh air so the paintings didn't mildew.
Oh, wow.
So I got to sit and sip ouzo and smoke cigarettes and look at amazing paintings that I've never seen in print.
Oh, wow.
It was a great experience.
So would you recommend, not that anyone else is ever going to get the chance to do that, but is that something that you would recommend for someone, how to get started to kind of work in that area or even work in a museum type of a setting, or should they just go out and start painting? How do you get started?
Oh, that's a very good question. There are a lot of different ways people approach that. Jim Terrell, one of the artists I worked with, said that the most important thing was to make sure you had a day job for at least 8 years. That more people and better artists than him had quit what they were doing just because they couldn't afford it. You know, it was too difficult, a lifestyle. Mm. So I think that trying to make sure you have at least a little bit of money, you know, so you can take care of day-to-day stuff is really important because it gives you room to do your work. The more time you spend exploring materials, you know, experimenting and using other people, you know, take some courses or read books, but find a way to really explore your medium so that you have options, you know, when you go down to work.
Mm-hmm. How did you learn?
Initially I was self-taught, and then I went to school and went through and got my BFA at the Claremont colleges, which was great. I got to work with some fantastic artists there. And that was Paul Soldner, he's a ceramic artist, and James Terrell and Carl Hertel and Michael Woodcock, just fabulous people. But I think what you learn the most from is the time you spend with those people, you know, because it's a way of seeing the world. And then all the how to draw part, that's just time. You know, that's doing it over and over and learning, getting your hand to connect with your head, you know.
Speaking of the world, you've been to Greece, you lived in New Mexico, you're here. Anywhere else that you've spent some time?
New York, and I lived in the Bay Area for quite a while, and I travel whenever I can. Yeah. Mexico, I'm planning on going to Japan next year.
Wow.
I think you can only make what you have in you, so you have to really gather experiences, and maybe that's part of what I would recommend to somebody. You know, just really pay attention and absorb as much as you can from as many places as you can. You know.
What was I going to say? Totally forgot. We'll cut that part out. Are you part of any galleries or anything like that, or where can people see your work?
I post all my shows as they come up on my website.
Oh, okay.
So I have certain places I show at regularly, and then group shows I'm in, and things I do individually also. But it's always changing, so I just post everything on there.
And you also have a link section on your website. Are those friends? Are they people that are inspirational, or?
I used to do stage settings for concerts. That's one of the things I've done, and I've done some CD covers. I just did one for I worked with another friend for a French band. So it's people I've worked with, friends, and mainly it's people I love their work, whether it's music or art. So I like other people to see that.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to say before we go?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to practice. Great.
Once again, where can people go to see your stuff?
AthenaHahn.net.
And your contact info is there as well in case
is.
they're interested in a piece.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, my thanks to Athena for joining us today, and make sure you guys join us next time on Turning the Verge. Bye. On being a guest on Turning the Verge, make sure you visit the website photo1.com.